Hello, this is Myri Lane on the By in Space channel. Today I'm reading from Exodus in the Torah. Last time I read about how Moses was named and how he was pulled out of the Nile River by the Pharaoh's daughter and raised as an Egyptian. So we're starting in chapter 2 on verse 11. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was growing up that he went out unto his brethren and looked upon their burdensome labors. And he saw an Egyptian man smiting a Hebrew man, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no one by, he smote the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And he went out the second day, and behold, 2 Hebrew men were striving together. And he said to them, what that was in the wrong? Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, who made thee chief and judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me? And thou hast killed the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely the thing has become known. And Pharaoh heard this thing, and he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and tarried in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled troughs to water their father's flock. The shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses arose and helped them and watered their flock. And they came to Reuel their father and said, wherefore are ye come home so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian man delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and he drew water for us and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, where is he? Wherefore have ye left the man? They call him that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with the man. He gave Zipporah his daughter to Moses. She bore him a son, and called his name Gershom. For he said, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. And it came to pass in this long time that the king of Egypt died, the Pharaoh. The children of Israel signed by reason of bondage, and they cried, and their complaints came up unto the God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning, and remembered his covenant with Abraham and Isaac and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God took recognizance of them. So here Pharaoh has died. And sometimes when rulers change, rules change. And so I'm sure that the people of Israel had hoped and prayed to their God that the next Pharaoh would not also put them in bondage. But he did. And so a great sorrow went up in prayers to God, and God heard him. And so God is going to help, but they don't know how. They just know their bondage and their slavery is continuing. Now I do want to talk about Zipporah. Zipporah is a wonderful, interesting woman, and she was the wife of Moses, which we don't hear a lot about her in the Bible. And when we're children in Sunday school, we don't hear a lot about her. One of the things she did is very adult. So that's why in Sunday school we don't hear a lot about her. But he traveled when he left Egypt to Midian. Now, Midian is across the peninsula and across another body of water, which I can't remember off the top of my head right now. And the people of Midian were also descendants of Abraham. I don't know if you remember my readings from Genesis, but Abraham had a wife named Sarah who could not have children. So he took his handmaiden Hagar, and Hagar bore him Ishmael. And then later, Sarah, even though they had mocked God about the promise of her having children, had a child. And his name was Isaac. And Isaac received the promise and the blessing because he was born out of Abraham's wife, not out of his handmaiden. And then after Isaac and Ishmael were born, and Ishmael grew up, and him and his mother were expelled from Abraham's family because Ishmael had mocked Isaac as a baby. And Sarah feared for her child because she wanted her son to lead the people. So Ishmael and his mother Hagar were expelled after Isaac was born. Very cruel, but if that hadn't happened, just like if Esau hadn't lost his birthright and blessing, Jacob would not have carried on to form the nation that formed. All of those things had to happen for the Hebrew people to thrive. But after that, Abraham married another woman who bore him 6 children that we know of. And one of those 6 children was Midian, and he moved into that area that Moses escaped to. So these people were part of the promise and covenant of Abraham. And they knew the laws. They practiced everything that Abraham would have practiced. They would have known the history that Abraham knew, coming from the Ur of Chaldees. All of those stories, all of those practices, all of those laws, all of the covenant would have been passed to these people too. So they were, in essence, Jewish, even though they were not, I don't know if I should use the word Jewish. They were definitely Abrahamic. I can safely say that. They were Abrahamic. And they knew about the covenant, and they knew about their promise with God, and they knew who Yahweh was. And Zipporah definitely knew the rules and what should be done, and practiced worshiping Yahweh, or God. So she is a very strong character in this development of Moses. And she was very independent and headstrong woman. Maybe all of those times that she had to deal with those shepherds, being the oldest daughter before Moses showed up, developed her character into a strong woman who knew what was right, knew what was wrong, and was a leader among her sisters. So all of that helped develop her. And I have gained new admiration for her as I study the Bible and the Torah and listen to lectures and sermons. And I'll have a lot more to say about what some of the preachers have said about Zipporah and about Moses' wives a little later. And some of you may find what I have to say shocking, and that's quite all right. I might be a little shocking every once in a while. But you all have a wonderful and blessed day.